Ass! Fuck! Hey, what's up YouTube? Honest Biggums here, and if you've been following this channel for a while, you should already know this is about the time that I do a newly released game review. And to be completely honest guys, there isn't any new releases out right now that I really want to review. There will be in the future, don't get me wrong, but I wanted to go ahead and use this as my time to do my very first indie review. And I can't think of anything. He's got to be one of the first, if not the first, video game reviewer here on YouTube. And he's just one of several people that inspired me to do what I do here on YouTube. The difference is, though, he's the first one I subscribed to. And when I found out this game was finally coming out, I got super excited. But I got also super disappointed because I have a Mac and I couldn't play it from Steam. So unfortunately, I had to wait until it came out on the Wii. Why this game came out on the Wii, I really could not tell you. And I say that because this game is full of a lot of suggestive themes. I can only imagine how much of a hard time ScrewAttack had to convince Nintendo to put this game on the eShop. But is the game good and worth purchasing? Well, folks, that's what we're here to find out. And as always, guys, let's start with the plot. The angry video game nerd and his friends were playing a shitty video game when suddenly, all of his friends got zapped into the TV with the nerd barely escaping to the basement. But Honor manages to come out of the TV and grab him by the balls and pull him inside anyway. The reasons for all the characters getting pulled into the TV is unknown, but they get pulled into what's called Game World, where the nerd is the shitty one. So when you look at it like that, it does its job really well. Most of the bosses and enemies you encounter in the game are all from the nerd show. And not only that, but there are cameos all over the place. The game wants you to find them all, and honestly, I haven't done that yet. Not because I don't want to, but just because there's so many of them. This game is definitely designed to take you back to the past, to play the shitty games that suck ass. It was purposefully designed to be hard as shit, no matter what difficulty setting you choose. You see that right there? That's the total number of times I died playing through this game for the first time. 434. And the funny thing is, that was on easy mode. And this is about the time that I start raging about how hard the game is. But just like with the story, I can't do that either. The game was purposefully designed to be like that. Now don't get me wrong, there were times where I was getting pretty pissed off at the deaths I was suffering, but at the same time I just laughed about it because games were like this on accident in the past. This game just has a special charm to it that makes you want to keep on playing despite the difficulty. There wasn't a single time. Well guys, that covers Angry Video Game Nerd Adventures. I know I didn't show off any of the cameos, and that's just because I didn't want to ruin their locations for you. Part of the fun of the game is finding them for yourself, and I hope you guys can do that without looking up a walkthrough like I did. So can I recommend this game to anybody? Yes, I can. This game is a lot of fun, both for gamers of old and new. It takes you back to the past to play the shitty games that suck ass. But the thing is, this game doesn't suck ass. This is the kind of game that'll whoop your ass and heighten your senses, but at the same time, it's a lot of fun to play, and you don't want to rage quit because of it. It's full of trial and error, and I cannot get enough of it. I cannot recommend this game enough to anybody. If you have a spare $10 in your wallet, I need you to hit up Steam or the Nintendo eShop if you have a Wii U, and get this game as soon as you possibly can. If you haven't played this game yet, you are seriously missing out. And to ScrewAttack and Cinemassacre, if you guys...
It's so weird, how you doing? Welcome to my shop. What are you looking for?
Well, I need to save the world, and I need a really good weapon. What would you recommend?
Saving the world's what you need. I recommend this Golden Jeep combo. It's quite exquisite. Friend of mine used to save the world quite a few times back in the day.
I don't know, man. Sword and Shield is a little cliche. Do you have anything better?
Well, if you need something quick and fast, we have some daggers here. Or if you're looking for some distance, trust letter here.
I don't know. This gun is...
Look, man, it's 76 with me here, right? It's about 30 minutes past closing time. I gotta go home and not get families. So,
Nah, never mind. I'm good. Thank you. Alright, well, asking you shall receive. A couple of my fans by the name of Solaris642 and Everlasting Gods have requested for me to review Shovel Knight. And who the hell am I to say no? This game has been pretty highly praised both by critics and players alike, saying it's one of the best indie titles ever made. That's a very bold claim, but that's what I'm here to find out. This game was released earlier this year, and you can find it on all platforms. It's available for you to purchase for $15, depending on where you go, of course. So without further ado, guys, let's begin. Before I get into the game, I want to say that I had a really good time playing through this. Though the game has flaws, which I'll cover later, I cannot deny the craftsmanship. This game was developed by Yacht Club. Ever heard of them? Yeah, me neither. It's available on pretty much everything except cell phones and the Xbox 360. Microsoft is probably using this as a means to coax people into buying the Xbox One, but if that's the case, I ask you this. Would you buy an Xbox One for a game developed by a company you've most likely never heard of? Well, neither. Shovel Knight comes out of exile to stop the Enchantress and save Shield Knight. But the Enchantress ain't having that shit, so she deploys the Order of No Quarter to stop Shovel Knight. The Order of No Quarter consists of 8 robot knights, named King Knight, Spectre Knight, Treasure Knight, Mole Knight, Plague Knight, Polar Knight, Propeller Knight, and Tinker Knight. See what they did there? Upon reaching the Tower of Fate, Shovel Knight discovers that the Enchantress is actually Shield Knight under the evil influences of the Cursed Amulet. Shovel Knight manages to break the curse and free Shield Knight. But the curse isn't completely broken, as the evil entity that possessed Shield Knight is now trying to destroy the Tower of Fate in an attempt to take out Shovel and Shield Knight. With the power of teamwork, the duo managed to defeat the evil, but the only way for Shovel Knight to escape the collapsing tower is for Shield Knight to hold off the magic energy with her shield. But she can't hold it forever. Shovel Knight's rival Black Knight comes in to rescue him while Shield Knight dies in the wreckage. Or so we thought anyway. The story is pretty simple to pick up, and it definitely doesn't take itself seriously, and for that, lost earlier is completely gone with no way to get it back. In earlier stages, it's not that big of a deal, but once you get to the Tower of Fate, be prepared to get pissed off. It's pretty damn brutal with its difficulty. The other stages, on the other hand, offer challenge, but not as severe as the last 2 levels, and it's up to you to use basic and advanced platforming skills to reach the boss. The bosses themselves can be hard to take out for the first-time player as well, because they don't have clear patterns. After fighting them for a while, you'll learn how to take them out, but I feel like the fights take too long. And I also feel like some of the stages drag on for too long as well. Not to the point where it gets boring, but more like tiring. All the music pieces in each level are amazing and they make my ears melt, and all the enemies are relatively easy to kill. And how about those graphics? This game's graphics are something Nintendo wished they could have done back in the days of the NES. All the enemies and bosses' animations are terrific, and each stage is full of vibrant colors that help distinguish one from another. If I could complain about anything, it's that Shovel Knight's running speed is too slow. I can understand because he's wearing armor he can't run that fast. And I do not have a PC, I have a Mac. And even if I could play it on my Mac, it's probably not a wise idea for me to do that. So it's no disrespect intended to you, man, but I just cannot review that game right now. If it gets released on a console later on, I'll definitely take a look at it for you, but until then, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to do something different. So I've decided that I'm going to go ahead and do the Binding of Isaac Rebirth for the PlayStation 4. That game looks pretty interesting, so I want to give it a try. So with all that said, I want to say thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed my video, please make sure you give me a like, a share, and if you want to see more, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys at the next video, but until then, you guys have a great night, and take care. Wow, you're still here. Interesting. Well, if you made it this far into the video, that must mean you really like my stuff. So, if you look at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you'll see my emblem there. If you click that little bad boy, you'll automatically be subscribed to my channel. It's pretty cool, because, you know, you get to watch all the other stuff. God damn it, why is this game so hard? I'll be right back. I'm gonna go get a drink. Excuse me. What? I went downstairs. Dude, seriously, I'm just trying to get to the kitchen. Dude, what the hell? God damn. Dude, what the fuck? Oh god, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get to the kitchen. It's downstairs! Alright, fuck you! Alright! Get out! God, your poop smells like shit, dude! Whatever, get out! Oh, finally! Now I can get a drink! Oh, god damn it! if you're curious. The Binding of Isaac is a 2D top-down shooter and a dungeon crawler. It should be mentioned that the PlayStation version is an HD remake of the original on Steam. Unlike the Steam version, Rebirth has official controller support, which makes playing this game much easier. Now, the first thing that people comment on is that it resembles the original Legend of Zelda for obvious reasons. Its story, according to the developer anyway, was inspired by the biblical tale Binding of Isaac, hence the game's title. Also, it touches on darker adult themes like suicide, child abuse, neglect, and abortions. Needless to say, this game can and most likely will offend someone. So if you're a religious person and get offended easily, you can go ahead and just skip this game, because I can tell you right now that it isn't for you. But to the rest of us, is the game any good? Is it really worth all the praise it's received, and can I recommend it to you? Let's find out. But first, let's start with the story. Once you open up the game, a narrative briefly goes over what's going on and why you're in such strange places, or RNG for short. The only thing you can look forward to on each run you play is that you take on Isaac's mom. Other than that, it's all completely random, so this makes reviewing it a little tricky. Aside from the multiple endings, there's also a ton of unlocks that you can get. Personally, I haven't unlocked everything because there's just so much stuff. I mean, look at all this. Do they really expect somebody to unlock all this stuff? You can also unlock additional characters. Each one of them is just a different skin of Isaac, but they also rock their own bells and whistles. In order for you to unlock everything, you will need to invest a shitload of time into this. Since everything is random, no two playthroughs will ever be alike. In one playthrough, you could find some really badass gear and be completely OP by the end of the run. Other runs, however, you will not be upgraded that well at all, which will lead to a lot of deaths. The game lets you choose between two difficulties, normal and hard. It should be mentioned that the game is tough no matter which setting you choose. If you die in the run, all of your upgrades and progression are completely lost and you have to start a new first box from Castlevania 2. I cannot help but to be too annoyed at the difficulty to laugh at it. As I mentioned earlier, Isaac's only method of attack is to shoot tears at his enemies. I will give the game this much, it's got a pretty good enemy variety. Some of them are just recolors of other enemies, but what's good about all of them is that they all have their own attack patterns. If you're properly upgraded, taking these assholes out is no problem, but there will be times where you'll get completely overwhelmed. The bosses aren't too bad either. All of them require strategy to beat, and it feels really satisfying to do so. The music is probably one of the worst, most forgettable soundtracks I've ever heard. It's dull and boring, and it never gives you any sense of urgency. If I can give the music any sort of credit, it goes well with the atmosphere of the story and gameplay. The game is meant to be somber, and the music really helps. Although it works, they still could have picked something that I could jam to. If you asked me to identify a certain piece of music, I honestly couldn't do it. It's that boring. The graphics are also very cute and cartoony. Be forewarned, it's going to take a lot of time and patience for you to unlock the true ending. But now I want to see what you guys think. Does The Binding of Isaac look interesting to you? Is it something that you think you're going to waste your time on? Go ahead and leave it in the comments section below. And I made good on my promise to you guys by popping out 2 more reviews for you before my ship goes out to sea again. And you know what? I've got time, so I'm going to try and do 2 more for you. One of them is going to be a certain new release for the Wii U, and another one's going to be yet another indie title. Now, this indie title is going to be that special video that I've told you guys about before. I've been called by a certain YouTuber to help him out with this video that he's got coming out. So be sure to subscribe to his channel and take a look at some of his videos and be on the lookout for his review of Castle Crashers, as I will be in that video. I left a link in the description below for you. With all that said, guys, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed my video, make sure you subscribe for more content. I'll see you guys at the next video, but until then, you guys have a great night and take care. Hey, you're still here.